everyone. So tonight we're going to be discussing the Friday the 13th franchise. Um, so, with the success from Halloween, um, Friday the 13th followed 3 years after with the whole slasher genre, and while Halloween is more psychological, in my opinion, uh, Friday the 13th, right from the get go, is a slasher, even though with the 1980 classic Friday the 13th, you don't see the killer at all. It's like basically the camera's basically handheld from the director or whoever, cameraman. Um, so I always liked that aspect because you never knew who it was, you know, there because it didn't show it, of course, up until the very end. Um, which was a good thing, but at the same time, it wasn't a shock, of course, when you found out Pamela Voorhees was the killer because you didn't know her throughout the whole film, you know. But which of course that's her in the scenes when the camera's stalking the victims, but you don't, know who it is. So of course it's not going to be a shock when you find out who the killer is. Um, but I think it's a great film. I mean, of course, for its time, you know, all the films wanted to grow from the success of what Halloween did, and with it being low budget, and they certainly have done that. And surprisingly, as I was doing some studying for the review, I I was really shocked to find out that Betsy Palmer, the actress that plays Miss Voorhees, did in fact get nominated a Razzie Award for Worst Actress, which is mind-boggling to me because I thought she was really good in it. Apart from the part when she's fighting with um, the main character, with you know acting like she's falling down and stuff, but I mean it's more like the plastic they're using, so of course, you know, they didn't have exactly the right editing then, I guess, and anyway, I don't think that's something. Her performance alone, whenever she was talking, and the look in her eyes, her facial expressions with the gnarly grin and everything, is just really creepy. Still, like a lot of people say that she was even creepier and more disturbing than Jason Voorhees because you actually see her anger and her frustration. Um, but then later on, of course, um, Jason was supposedly drowned, but then they decided to bring him back for the sequel, as if he had never really drowned. And supposedly he saw his mom get his head cut off, her head cut off. Um, and for the longest time as a kid, I'd wonder like, so was he dead all along and just came back for revenge, or was he not dead and he just kind of became like a hermit in the woods, basically? Well, hermits have that don't bother people, but he does the exact opposite. um, but you know what I mean. This is where you get Potato Sack Jason. He doesn't have his hockey mask yet. He hasn't donned it or found it yet. Which honestly really admire the look and just the basic, you know, mask alone. That it's just a regular bag over his head to hide his deformity. Which I actually thought was really creepy. It reminded me of like a scarecrow, and with his overalls and his plaid outfit, and I thought it was really creepy. And also, the director that directed the second one, Friday the 13th Part 2, also directed Helen H2O, which Um, H2O is my favorites of the franchise, and then also part two of Friday the 13th is my favorite, one of them. And then uh, a third one where Richard Brooker plays Jason Voorhees. I think he's actually one of the best. Um, um, so the stories, you know, continues on with Jason's killings and everything, and up to this point with the past the fourth one, it gets drawn out like it's basically the same thing, and they try to change it up uh, here and there, like with the 3D, and then they Jason coming back, literally coming back from the grave, and he's becomes zombie Jason, and then we're introduced to Kane Hodder, which is a great installment to the franchise with him, his performance as Jason Voorhees. But unfortunately, the franchise at that point just sucked ass, in my opinion, and it's a real shame because it would have been nice to see him in an actual good Jason movie. Because I didn't like the New Blood at all. It was okay. But with the score on Friday the 13th, it really reminds me a lot of Psycho in 1960 with the violins and just the overall story, really, of, like, with Jason later on claiming his mother's head and keeping it in a shed, rotting, festering, and um, basically the uh, the voices from the past relative mother um, is supposedly what's driving them to kill, much like Psycho and Norman Bates and Anthony Perkins' character is Norman Bates. Here's his mother and assumes it's his mom, which is actually his alter ego, his split personality disorder, doing it, but he puts it um, his mother or that he assumes his mother's still alive. It's just kind of similar in a way, which I do like about it. Um, and I haven't really even given any thought about it until I, you know, played the music back to back, and I'm like, this sounds really similar to Psycho. Um, with the violence of the, but I mean, they are also different enough to where they're their own characters, they're their own storyline, and to a completely different atmosphere, of course. Um, whereas the Basement Motel is in the Psycho universe, and Friday the 13th is in the campgrounds, the Crystal Lake, and I also really like that too. As far as the franchise goes, I did love the scenery, um, because I lived in Danbury, which is a small town with woods and a pond that I always swim at called what was the name of it? It wasn't at Hanging Rock. It was Sunset Park or something. I think that's what it was called. But anyway, um, and also the horror film Cabin Fever, the uh, horror comedy, I guess. Cabin Fever was filmed there, which is really exciting for me because as much loved horror movies, it was awesome to have a film made there. With the pretty store at the gas station where the kid yells pancakes, pancakes. Um, but yeah, I was always just the idea of someone breaking into your home, which was what scared me with Halloween 1978. Um, just the thought of a home invasion or being out in the woods, secluded from everyone, and then all of a sudden there's this guy wielding some kind of weapon trying to kill your ass. It's just pretty scary. And uh, I guess that's what stands out to me with these films is just that. Just thinking if that was reality. But as I've said, the later installments, honestly, I don't care for. I watched them again recently, um, like a few days ago, the whole series or franchise, and I watched them, but I could not get into them whatsoever. Um, After the um, the New Blood, I mean, I was invested into it enough because the performance by Kane Hodder. But that was really it. Like even the kills in that one were bland and boring. Um, and that's what the franchise is known for, the kills basically and the nudity and you know. Uh, so then there's Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell, and it was just horrible. Which this collection I've got only goes to Manhattan, which is fine because that's where it just totally goes down the drain. Um, but then the Freddy vs. Jason, I'm gonna include that in here. I actually got that too, but I forgot to put it in my video. Um, I think it actually upgrades both franchises from the Nightmare films and Friday the 13th because they both were drawn out. They both ran out of ideas, basically, pretty much. And it had a basic kind of story, but it improved each character from what they were lacking later on. So that's pretty much my review for Friday the 13th, the franchise, and the remake also. I just watched it, and I really liked it when I first saw it, but now, like, I don't like the characters in it at all. I don't like the death scenes in it either, except for the first 20 minutes. It's good. But yeah, the characters are just bland, and not entertaining at all to me. But then I liked Derek Mears as Jason. He was pretty good. But that's nothing to write home about. Like the score is okay. Which of course the original score is so much better. Where you can actually hear pick out what instruments are being played in there, not just some kind of computerized motion picture music, I guess. That makes sense. Anyway, I hope you all have a good day, and keep a lookout for my films. Thank you.